In this video, we're going to discuss how I learned how to be consistent. My whole life, I have been someone who's been excited to get into projects, and I'll jump headfirst into something. But after a while, when the going gets tough, when the rubber hits the road, I would give up. I built this identity of not being someone who was consistent, who could carry out projects day in and day out for a long period of time. And honestly, it's messed up my life because I have these big audacious goals, like for example, having a big channel, being successful in the world. Having this identity of not being consistent was really an impediment to my success. And I'm sure if you're here watching this video, you also are struggling with the same thing. I knew that if I wanted to get to where I was, to where I want to be, I'd have to master consistency as a strategy, as a trait, whatever you want to call it. So for the last 2 years, I've been in Israel studying in what's called a yeshiva, and I've had the opportunity to practice consistency in a few ways. The first time I remember going into a meeting with a big rabbi over here, Rabbi Orlowick, and I asked him, how can I be more consistent? And he said, take a project and break it up into bite-sized pieces and commit to those bite-sized pieces every day, no matter what, and eventually it will snowball. So I took his word for it, and there was something I wanted to do, and that was learn Hebrew. I'm in Israel after all, and I'm learning all of my texts in Hebrew, so not knowing Hebrew was another bottleneck, so I wanted to learn it. But learning a language is a big, scary thing, so I had to break it down. So I went to the bookstore, and I picked up this book, and it was broken up into, I believe, 24 chapters, or they call them 24 lessons. And the book was about this thick, and each lesson was about a week's worth of content. And inside each lesson, you would break it down into about daily exercises, 7 days, and you get through one of the chapters, one of the lessons. So I committed to 1 page a day, because there were about 7 pages in each lesson. And no matter what, I did the lesson, and I completely forgot about the goal of finishing the book. I just said, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do 1 page, 1 lesson a day. And I eventually got through the entire book. Now that I had this book under my belt, I knew that I had it in me to be consistent, so I tried another habit. And I didn't think too creatively because I just chose Duolingo. Duolingo is a language learning platform on the phone, on the iPhone. It's an app. And I wanted to just get more deeper with Hebrew. Before I was learning Talmudic Hebrew, or Hebrew, it's called Lashon HaKodesh, which teaches you biblical Hebrew. But I wanted to learn modern Hebrew. So I went to Duolingo, and I just said 1 lesson a day, 1 lesson a day, 1 lesson a day. And that was 240 days ago. And that just shows you the power of snowballing. One more example, just to take it home. When the war broke out here in Israel, on October 7th, I wanted to stay connected to the war. Obviously, I'm not in the army, but we believe, as religious Jews, we believe that our prayers and our learning does help on the battlefield. Now, it's a little far-fetched in the physical world, but in the spiritual domain, that learning creates a merit for the soldiers, for those who are captive, and I wanted to stay connected, even intellectually, to what was going on. There was a book that I wanted to read called Mesilas Yesharim, and it's this big, scary book written by this guy named Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, and it's a really difficult book. But it's about personal development, and it's a famous text that if anyone who has become religious on their journey, it's one of those books you get through, and I wanted to get through it. And I actually never really read an entire book cover to cover, believe it or not. So I said, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to read this book 5 minutes a day. I don't care what day of the week it is. I don't care how tired I am. I don't care if I read 1 page or 7 pages in those 5 minutes. I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes a day. I let myself learn more if I was sitting and I was feeling in a vibe and I didn't have anything else, but no less than 5 minutes. And the key part of that was that I committed before I read. I sat down and I said, this isn't the merit of the soldier. So I connected it to a higher purpose. I sat down, I started the timer, and I started reading. And this was about 60 days ago. And eventually, about day 45 into it, I finished the book. You starting to get the picture here? The key to staying consistent is to have the audacious goal, but set up yourself for success by breaking down everything into small, tiny little chunks to where you have a repeatable daily habit that you can soak into your identity and build into your daily schedule. And before you know it, you're going to have everything completed. You're going to be consistent. And I think what was key for me was connecting it to a higher purpose, a why. I really wanted to learn Hebrew because I'm living in Israel. I really wanted to finish this book because I'm doing this for the merit of the hostages, and I wanted to give them or stay connected to the war effort as much as I could. And by having these whys and having these tiny little micro habits, this was my key to success. Another thing that might have helped was that I committed to a specific time, space, location. So like I have my desk in where I learn every single day. It's the same place and I learn about the same time. So I said right after prayers in the morning, which is about 9 a.m., I sit down for 5 minutes in the same desk. So same time, same space. I'm not so beholden to the time and to the space, but I make sure 5 minutes a day. If it's 11 p.m. or if it's 2 a.m. and I'm exhausted, I just sit down for 5 minutes and I push myself. This is the same for going to the gym. This is the same for anything that you're trying to be consistent in. The snowballing effect is incredible. It's amazing how these small little incremental shifts in your day, they don't even take that much time out of your day. I'm talking 5 minutes and I've made these big achievements. And I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. I really believed and bought into the fact that I wasn't consistent. I said I have ADHD, I jump into projects and then I get sick of them and then I forget about them. That's not necessarily true. For the longest time, I didn't believe that I had consistency in me. And when I did these habits, breaking down these large goals into these bite-sized pieces and then committing to them, this really was what was the secret to my success. And if this can help you in your life, then that would mean the world to me. So if you try a habit, please leave it in the comments below, whatever that habit is, and maybe I can even help you break it down into a bite-sized piece. There is a book that I read a long time ago when it was trendy called Atomic Habits, and it goes into depth about this strategy. But when I read it, I kind of just read it like every other personal development book, didn't really take it seriously. But once you actually embody this ability to break down these big projects into these actionable steps and detach from the outcome, don't worry about the goal, focus on the system that you're creating, I think that's really what was the key for me. And I really hope it can help you as well. There are a few other key character traits that I've been working on to help me be successful in this. One is maintaining expectations. Other one is being patient, stuff like that. And I'm really excited to be going into those topics later on. So if you found this video valuable, then give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos. That's all for now. See you next time.